300 homes. You will enjoy big tar roads with covered drainage, modern electrification with solar street lights, gated entrance with security post, and a breath-catching experience of our beautiful sea view and lake view. You can own a home today at our Sanyang Sea View Estate. Call us today on 446-4838 or 325-9220. Visit our website on ejinvestments.net. EJ Investments, first in property.
Honey, did you remind him that the last time he sent the money, it was not enough to buy all the provisions?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to tell him.
Are you guys talking about money transfer to buy provisions?
Yes.
But
Don't you know about Baluwo?
Baluwo? What is Baluwo?
Baluwo is a service that your son can use to send provisions directly to you guys from the shop. And you don't have to worry about the exchange rate.
Tell me how Baluwo works.
It's very simple.
Just log on to baluwo.com and shop, or download the app on your phone. You can shop on the website or using the app to buy online basic products for your family and friends. With Baluwo, you decide what your money is spent on. Your money, your choice. Buy online products for your family and friends in the Gambia, Senegal, Nigeria or Mali. Baluwo, better than sending money.
Hello and welcome back to yet another episode of The Brunch. I am your host, of course, Saja Brito, and joined here by the usual panel, Salamin Cham, Nima Kamara, and Mustafa K. Dabo. As usual, just like the way we do it every Saturday, we will allow Mr. Cham to walk us through the newspaper review. Mr. Cham.
Thank you. Welcome back. Where were you?
Where were you?
I didn't say where were you. I said where were you? All right. Thank you very much. Wherever you were, we are glad that you are back and in good shape. Now, in the newspaper review today, I want to start with the TRRC, which resumed the 5th session, we were told. And it was focusing on the UDP 1996 ambush at Denton Bridge, or let me say, ambush on the UDP 1996 at the Denton Bridge. 3 high-profile testimonies from Ousainou Darboe, the leader of the United Democratic Party, his right-hand man, Amadou Sane, and Dr. Cisse, who himself is a UDP man, but who has done a lot in attending to people who have had their human rights abuses and had injuries from there. First, let's start with Lawyer Darboe's testimony. We learned from him that in December, rather details about him, that in September 1996, his convoy was attacked. And other things we learned was that he actually was the one who won the 1996 elections. He has always said that, but he gave more details about it. But first, let me ask you, for me, I think this was perhaps the first time that we had Ousainou Darboe actually having a free hand, so to speak, and a larger audience to narrate what happened to him and his party over the last 24 years. I think whatever he was saying at political rallies and social media and interviews, etc., he would never have a platform like this one. Did he do a good job of it, is what everybody wants to know. Right? Did you agree with him, for example, he won the 1996 elections?
I mean, as far as that is concerned, so long as there is no evidence to support it, that remains.
I will enlighten you with some. I will enlighten you with some circumstantial
speculation.
Some circumstantial evidence.
Yes.
When the UDP was formed
in 1996.
In their first rally in Brikama, I was confused. In fact, actually, I think he said the rally was meant to be in Brikama in Banjul. I don't know where he got that, because I attended a rally in Brikama, which was supposed to be the biggest political gathering since even the military themselves stepped into politics. They never had such a gathering. Now, it's well documented that in 1996, soldiers were openly siding with the APRC. Absolutely. They were wearing green flags, green uniforms, and at that time, ballot boxes are transported from polling booths to regional centers for counting. And most of the people who do this are the security. The UDP had alleged that their agents were pushed out of vehicles that were transporting these ballot boxes, and ballot boxes were stuffed. In fact, their votes were put in Jammeh's box and resealed, and the soldiers alone took the boxes. So there was every evidence that the APRC, under the junta, were always going to win because they had control of everything. Yeah. Now, Mr. Dabo said, the PIC chairman, then it was provisional, was taken hostage, and he was only released when he told them, now that you have done everything, now I think I could go. Yeah. Well, I have never had the man said so, because obviously it will be difficult for the man to say that publicly, admit that publicly, because he will hear fear reprisals. But I think Mr. Dabo must have got this information from a very privileged source. The chairman, apart from Momor Njai, there was no, even Momor Njai, could you believe some of the things that happened, he only said it after Jammeh. Like, for example, there were soldiers who were asking him to, to tamper with the results, etc. All came out after it. But then at least he resisted. But the others did haven't. So I want to believe that with some decum of credibility, that it was definitely impossible for the APRC of 1996 to win a free and fair elections.
Well, look, the truth is that we know there was an air of intimidation. Yeah. We know there was, in fact, intimidation. We know soldiers have used strong arm tactics to get support. But the basic reality also is that there is no evidence presentable in court that suggested UDP has won the election. That's my point. I am saying
I think that's just there is no possible way that we can have those evidence.
No. But you can create a conjecture. You can say, well, we have seen X, Y, and Z. We've seen signs of intimidation. We've seen this and that.
That's why I said the election was not free and fair.
Yeah.
That one was clear.
The picture you've designed here suggests that the election wasn't free and fair.
No,
there was intimidation, there were irregularities.
But
there's no way of saying with certainty that one party or the other won. So it could have gone either ways. It could have been that APRC have won with a small margin, and because of what they did, now there's no way of ascertaining that. But it could have also been that UDP have won.
Even though it looks likely true, but in the absence of evidence, it remains a speculation. We cannot
say with certainty that that's what happened.
So you're saying that, well, Mr. Dabo may be right, but then
he could also be wrong.
Yes, he could also be wrong.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to paint the picture of how the situation was in 1990.
Obviously, we all know.
The military were hell-bent on staying on the power, and nothing would have, and they would have gone to all extremes to ensure that it happened.
That's very true.
So what we can say for sure, and of course the UDP was very popular. It was not just the UDP at the time. I mean, in the circumstances, people were opposed to the military clinging on to power. We're all looking for alternatives. Absolutely. UDP then was not a divisive UDP like now. It was just coming, and Dabo seemed to be a very credible group. And people who normally have disagreed with him now were supporting him because they didn't have any alternative to the military. And they were very popular, well supported. But some came openly, some, But then the military had the powers, and they were ready to abuse it. They abused it. It was all documented. I remember when we had the observer, D.A. Jao, who used to be the editor, who used to, he used to run a column called Focus. He was documenting all these things that the military were doing that he said could never resulted in a free and fair election. So what we can agree with Mr. Dabo is that yes, the 96 election was not free and fair.
Well, which other election was free and fair? Apart from maybe
the opposition have always said the opposition have always said the election has been rigged, but the 2016 one was not rigged. Is that because they won?
No.
Or there was more time?
The system was changed. Perhaps it was not successfully rigged, but there were attempts to rig it. Because we understand that
there
was a time when the bureau was set on fire, and we believe, or people believe, that the bureau was stuck with voters' cards that were to be distributed. And this is something that used to happen in the past. Yeah. So there were attempts to rig the election, but it wasn't successful. Also, the system has changed in the way that counting was done on the spot, where nobody would be given the chance to alter the results by when they were being transported. So
all this combined to make it, so it was more transparent and more free and fair.
Exactly.
And then, of course, the APRC, supposedly their ghost voters could not vote. Because some soldiers burned the place.
Remember, it's the Jains who used to vote, not ghost.
All right. What about the general atmosphere that he described that his party had lived through? I remember that is the topic now under the TRRC. They make it a special investigative topic. The UDP attack on the UDP convoy. Now, along the way,
I have a question to those of you who are familiar with the Syrians. I understand that when Issa Jallow was here, he explained that this session now is going to be about institutional reform.
He said there are plans
institutional hearings.
Yes, there are plans
and I understand that when you're talking about institutions, especially in a system like we used to have, you want to address the issue of multi-party systems, also how it operates. Was that the reason why UDP was invited, you think?
No. What Jallow said was that there are plans to have institutional hearings. But the session will continue with November 11, Korosise, and the UDP 96 ambush.
And there are plans. Point is why UDP
there are plans for institutions.
This was an incident that brought us.
Yes, this was a pillar. You know,
why is it so important for the TRRC?
Because of human rights abuses. That's what they said. I mean, it's part of their core pillars. You know, they have 9. Am I told 9 to investigate in 2019 alone or something like that? Okay. And it's part of the UDP ambush, etc., etc. Because they believe that it constitutes a very serious human rights violation at the time. Okay. Remember, they will also have the phony, witchcraft, etc., etc. All those are coming.
And one thing that for me, I mean, the 1996 incident, I think most beliefs led to the death of Kebute.
Yeah, the drummer.
It's a phenomenal drummer. He used to come to our village. Each time he comes there, he stays with us.
Okay. So you knew him?
At our house. Yes, I know him very well. I'm addicted to attire because of him.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm very close to him. So, I mean, Kebute was believed to have died after that incident. Remember Dr. Caesar said?
Yes, Caesar said
he died 2 days that.
Yeah,
Kebute is usually with opposition.
Yeah.
He was NCP.
Well, you know, NCP and
after NCP,
PVP were all UDP.
Always with opposition, and he's always following political rallies.
Yeah.
He's a phenomenal drummer, and he likes the tradition. Like, I mean, he's exceptional.
Exactly.
I mean, there wasn't. I think, with the exception of people like Mas Joe
of Latrikunda, German. Yes, I know him. I knew him.
We were young. I wouldn't have remembered that.
He was a good NCP. I knew him.
So you have. I mean, I was young too.
He was very eloquent, Mas Joe.
So yeah, and then I think that, and also
he's the one who used to start. Whenever it's time for him to speak at NCP rallies, I mean, he was as popular as Diba. I could say second, maybe even popular than Diba, because people enjoyed him. He was the one who would start with his rallies. Oh, you be liming Koro by Jawara. You know how he does it. And during that time, you like politics. Because people don't insult each other or attack each other, but then they will use metaphors and things to caricature each other. Look at them. He will say directly the opposite of what people believe Jawara to be. Jawara is called Kairaba Jawara. But whenever he starts to speak, he will say, Auzu billahi min Koro by Jawara. The direct opposite of what people believe Jawara is. He was good. He was good.
So, I mean, Kebute and others
Mr. Pa, before we go, I think we are experiencing some internet issues. I think we're going to stop for now and we will come back.
Dreaming of owning a property in a prime location with great proximity and fantastic neighborhood? EJ Investments Sanyang Seaview Estate is the best choice you have been waiting for. Our Sanyang Seaview Estate is approximately 15 minutes drive away from the busy hub of Brusubi roundabout and into the heart of nature, where you can have a peaceful and relaxed lifestyle with your family. You can buy a finished 4-bedroom story with 5-year flexible payment plan or a service plot with 2-year payment plan option. With over 300 homes, you will enjoy big tar roads with covered drainage, modern electrification with solar street lights, gated entrance with security post, and a breath-catching experience of our beautiful sea view and lake view. You can own a home today at our Sanyang Seaview Estate. Call us today on 446-4838 or 325-9220. Visit our website on ejinvestments.net. EJ Investments, first in property.
Internet data has never been used.
So why is it not giving us?
So bidding NCP Fenketa.
We based on the UDP.
Welcome back from that short, well, I wouldn't say a break. We had a little internet interruption there, but we are glad to be back. And we will just pick up from where exactly we left off, Cham.
Yeah, we were wrapping up the 1996 ambush on the UDP and the TRRC. Now we move on to another TRRC or another topic, which was the Janneh Commission. I understand we have guests, with whom we will dialogue more on that. But the Janneh Commission, well, quite unexpectedly announced that President Jammeh will now have all his assets taken away by the state, as well as Mohamed Bazi. But are you not surprised that others who are judged by the Janneh Commission to be associates of Jammeh are not included in the list, or so far?
Maybe they're cherry picking or something, but it absolutely doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, well, but he didn't say it's Janneh Commission, actually, recommendations of the Janneh Commission. He said that commission report is still being reviewed.
So whose idea was it that,
so I think,
where was this coming from?
In his opinion, I think this was a temporary...
but from who is it coming from? From which
temporary measure,
authority?
Temporary, an interim measure to...
Yes, but which authority?
Make sure that some assets that are movable, some people whose assets... who can move their assets don't.
But
first of all, we don't know what the recommendations are in general because the report has not been shared with the public yet. But I can see this to be. I can see this to be.
Where did that come from?
The first step.
It's part
you're looking
of the
at
implementation of the commission's report.
So we are talking about the Janneh Commission then.
Because it's in connection to the investigation.
Yes, so if you are telling me that none of the recommendations have come out and he was not dealing with the recommendations, which authority was it?
The commission is still being reviewed, the report is still being reviewed.
So where is the authority to forfeit his...
Well, the authority comes from the report.
So it's the Janneh Commission?
Yeah, but it's the minister acting in his powers as the Attorney General and the powers derived from the President.
Okay, maybe we'll get an expert to do that. But some people have already suggested that only the courts can do that. So just the government or president cannot just jump. I read in Freya that they sent President Jammeh, Barrow accepted to forfeit Jammeh's property. So where is the authority coming from? The president? Through the recommendation of the Janneh Commission? Was it the court? Somebody said it's only the court that can do that.
No. Well, commissions in this nature have almost equal powers as the courts when they make recommendations.
But you are telling me that it's not the Janneh Commission they're dealing with.
No. The recommendation comes from Janneh Commission.
So they've started implementing the Janneh Commission recommendations.
That's why the minister said, in fact, that the Janneh Commission have indicted Jammeh to have stolen over 2 billion.
About $1 billion.
Yeah, about $1 billion.
Okay, we will get into the nitty-gritties of that. So to save time, I think this will do for the press review. We go back to Sadio, and then perhaps we go to the...
we will now allow Nima to take us on what's trending on social media.
So what's trending? It's been quiet in the political arena for a while now. We understand that the president is having a rally in Brikama, which is also a very stronghold for the UDP party. And few confusing things have been going around on Facebook, especially from APRC, the corners of APRC, the UDP, and the Borough Youth Movement, and some members within the Borough government, to try to throw jabs at one another, but also to make sure that the people who might have been willing to attend these rallies do not have the confidence to do so. So like I said, many things are happening on social media. The Borough people are calling on people to come out, and we understand that UDP is trying to thwart their efforts by sending audios and text messages to say that the meeting has been cancelled. We know what is happening here, guys.
Who said they are UDP?
And also, we understand that APRC leadership
that one is clear.
has also cautioned their people from going out to join the rally.
My take
so
on
what
this.
is happening here?
People of Brikama will really come out. Do you think they are buying the crowd?
That's the question.
That's a
$1 million question.
My take on this, I think Mr. Barrow is trying to test his mettle, so to speak.
And where better to do it than in Brikama?
Yeah, test his mettle in the political scene. He's looking for, he and his group perhaps are looking for identity, or they are trying to test the waters to see what and where, and the strength of his political ambition. I think he's testing his mettle now.
Yeah.
This meeting is important because you could see from the beginning of the week, the organizers are very keen in making it a big attraction to the eyes. Because I mean, politics. This is the kind of things we have been seeing over the last year or two. Any rally that's organized, the organizers want to make sure that they hugely attract a lot of people, so people will say the crowd is big.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to incumbents, like we said, Mr. Jammeh at the time, the incumbent, they borrow crowds, mobilized a lot of people, some against their will, some they are enticed, some they are
bought.
Some are even bought, or perhaps some were coerced into coming because the incumbent and they fear reprisals, etc. There may not be reprisals on the Borough like there were in Jammeh, but then of course people will still feel that, well, you know, perhaps I'm doing a job.
Do you see that happening with this rally?
Well,
do you see?
Well, we have seen people who did not agree with him. For example, the UDP lost their job; they've been sacked.
Yeah.
So,
my point is, do you believe that Borough people are going to buy people from maybe elsewhere?
Well,
them to the rally?
Well, there are a lot of allegations that they've been around us. I had audios and etc., which they did not come to dispute.
Yeah.
That you know, they were trying to get people,
mobilize
people, to leave whatever they're doing and come back to Borough, and they promised them monitoring. They denied it.
Yeah.
But I've listened to audio stuff
that.
But I know that with incumbents, you know, this kind of things, a lot of resources. They go mobilize supporters from all across the country and bring them. So it will be difficult today to find out whether actually the crowd that we're going to see are definitely, majority of them are from the West Coast. The people he said he's going to meet. Yeah. Or actually they are borrowed crowds from across the country who wants to come so that they put up a big show. Yeah. I think that is likely to happen because they were busy organizing that.
We have personal interactions with Borough members from the Borough Fans Club and some from the Borough Youth Movement who said this is going to be the biggest crowd that we have ever seen. But we also know that Brikama is one town that is always behind UDP. So what do you think, Mustafa, for example?
What I'm trying to say is the organizers will try to give the impression that all the people who came there actually from Brikama. But I'm telling you that more than half of the people who are going to be there are certainly not going to come from Brikama. They're going to come from across the country. That's what that's the norm. Good. Even UDP. I mean, the people who or APRC, when they went there, they call the place SSP. They parked the place. They cannot claim that all those people came from West Coast. So it's just going to be a meeting that's going to take a national. You know, the president or his supporters will take people from across the country. You know, what they want to know is to test their mettle to show the people that, well, you believe that Jabaro doesn't have a crowd. Here is a crowd. We are now sending a message that we are growing and it's going to be a big political force in the future. So watch the space for us. That's how it's going to be.
Presidents always, I mean, if you wield the powers of the state, you always, you don't run out of numbers.
You don't run out of resources and stuff like that.
But what explains...
You cannot go to a rally where you would have...
They hardly even go. They don't even go.
Of course,
when the people are not
it's
meeting.
going to be a very tough politics to take for Barrow to find a foothold in West Coast.
Yeah.
We know, but it wouldn't be to a point where you would not have enough people at this rally.
So what explains APRC and UDP's behavior in this sense?
Allegedly, it was said that UDP people went to do audios to tell people it's been cancelled. Yeah. Well, the announcement I had from the radio officially did not mention the group or groups who are doing that.
Yeah.
But,
well,
you are alleging this UDP.
I can safely say it's UDP.
You allege this
UDP.
The point is
because they have a bigger stake.
All right.
APRC and UDP have the biggest stake in West Coast. Yeah. And from what I've heard is that they said some UDP people are also saying these people have also gone out to tell people this is a reuniting. It's a reunification.
So it's a politics of deception that is happening right
meeting between Hussein
and
so there you go. So they are trying to correct that.
They also responded with another missing.
It's a politics of deception.
There's a lot of then angles to this.
There's a lot of politics going around.
Yes.
So
what
is clear is that a president, he who wields the power of the state, is never alone.
Okay. So my question is this the time for Barrow to be out there to the people, like on political rallies and stuff?
That's unfortunate.
That's
the most unfortunate thing. What we voted.
That's my question.
What we voted. I mean, the very people. You know, the irony is this thing. I agree with you. The very people we voted in to stop exactly this kind of nonsense are the people who are.
That's the
sad thing. How the people who are political instead of working.
If we have
the coalition to blame.
There are a lot of
the transitional agenda. Can I say it? If we have stick to the transitional agenda, this is not something that we would expect from Barrow. Exactly. But they have deviated from the agenda since the beginning. And now you have an individual who has a political ambition and wants to consolidate his power. This is the time that you want to campaign. This is the time that you want to build.
And now the methods that have been
so it makes sense from that point.
The sad thing is that the methods that have been used are exactly the methods we voted against.
Exactly.
But the point in fact is there are a lot of uncomfortable things that a transitional leader would have been able to do without political consequences. But when you want to stay in office, those are things you cannot do.
So you will compromise principle, you will compromise
not just principles,
you will compromise principle, you will ignore common sense. You will be blind. You will be blind to realities. You will just be focused on your ambition to stay in power at all costs.
Yeah. Well, before we move on to the next topic, I just have this because there was a time when people have aligned APRC to Barrow, and there were speculations that these two parties could, or two parties meaning Barrow's camp and APRC, could join forces. But now, if APRC comes out officially to warn their members from joining Barrow, is this to distance themselves, or is it to make sure that they do not have Barrow to consolidate power?
Well,
what do you think?
I know from the beginning.
The biggest casualty of Barrow's political establishment, if Barrow establishes politics, his political party, the biggest casualty will be APRC and GDC.
Now listen to this. I've always believed that even though I see APRC people warming up to Barrow after he fell out with Dabo and others, I always know that Barrow cannot offer anything to the APRC that will satisfy.
But trust me,
that satisfy their ambition, which is, of course, they want a soft landing for Jammeh. Barrow cannot afford to give them that promise because Jammeh has become not just a domestic material, but his case and all what the calamity that has befallen on him has an international dimension. Even Mr. Barrow cannot sacrifice some of his principles to embrace Jammeh and all about him publicly. He will lose his friends. He's from both the region and abroad. Yeah. So I never think
it wouldn't also make sense if they are seizing his assets now.
I never think Mr. Barrow can definitely offer APRC, whatever they want. And I know also that the APRC would not. They've said it at the beginning. One of their MPs, female MPs from one of the forges said, when Mr. Barrow was whining and dining with the UDP, and they considered themselves to be sole owners of the government, the APRC was their worst enemy. Now, if Mr. Barrow is fall out with the UDP, and he's now trying to get us, let's resist completely.
Now, those are
I think Rambo's statement yesterday is exactly Ryoko in those sentiments.
Those are politicians talking. Rambo can talk, the National Assembly member APRC can talk. The thinking of the average APRC supporter is that they would rather vote for Barrow than vote for UDP.
That's
the point is when Barrow comes to form his own political party, that is why GDC is uneasy.
But why do they have to vote for either of those?
What do they get from Mr.
These
Brown?
are the two biggest political
Yeah, but what
my point
now,
is,
when you want to deny UDP from getting into government, the likely natural instinct of the APRC supporter would be to go to Barrow.
my point is, if you have APRC, why do you need to vote?
But
for
what is the difference?
Because while APRC seems powerful, they don't have the right political support to form a government.
That's it. But when they claim...
Now, when Barrow comes into being, this is a party that could only win 6 to reach 6 constituencies.
They are confined to only their base.
They only confined to their base.
Yes.
But
now, if you have Barrow comes in, who
you believe can pick?
Pose a threat.
No, who you believe can pick?
What you do is you go to Barrow. So while the APRC guys are talking, the natural instinct of an APRC supporter is to join Barrow.
I don't believe so.
Yeah. Well, we'll see when it comes to the election is here.
Okay,
because
okay.
I mean, look at it. Come to think of it. When we were having elections in December 2016, now, right now you have the UDP here, you have APRC here, which is confined to a region. You have GDC, which is decentralized, mostly rural. You understand?
Yeah.
Now you have all these political parties, and you have Barrow in the middle, who is craving for support.
Yeah.
Why aren't you
Now, and
counting NRP?
Because NRP is
don't bring
it's already Barrow.
Let me just
you
say
understand?
This. Let me just say this.
Now the natural instinct of if you cannot, Barrow has proven unable to break UDP.
Yes.
We've been fighting with them for 3 years now.
Yeah.
We've seen how it's gone. Now, if you cannot do that, the natural instinct of these other supporters who consider UDP to be an ultra-orthodox party, like a very conservative party they cannot deal with, the natural ally is the one who is going to be in the middle.
And that's Mr.
And that's Barrow.
But they
cannot do it alone.
They will not.
GDC cannot do it alone.
But I see the APRC will not be so blind to jump to the Barrow.
It's not APRC as a party. It's the average supporter of the APRC.
That's what I'm saying as a party.
Feeling the need to prevent UDP from coming to power, and the only way to do that is to empower UDP.
It can only happen when they see somebody allied to the APRC.
I believe in the opposite. Here's the thing. When it comes to sympathizing, the expectation is that APRC supporters will sympathize more closely with Barrow than Dabo, because obviously Barrow is the.
You think it's more conciliatory?
Exactly, but easier to deal with.
He has shown that he has shown a dislike.
But when it comes to voting, when it comes to voting, what incentive does Barrow have to offer APRC members? And I also believe that it's in the interest of the APRC party to see that Barrow acts as a weak president, as a weak candidate, because it gives them, given their history, given the fact that Barrow, the contention now is between the past president and the current president. They now have grounds to do something to rally people around their party for gaining more votes. I don't know if that makes sense.
You think APRC is going to believe themselves that they can win?
They can win, obviously.
So, and they will go alone.
Yes.
That empowers Barrow. I can tell you, the election will come and you will see.
But I believe that Barrow has nothing to offer APRC at this point.
Why it will be difficult?
It's not Barrow empowering. The point is, when Barrow goes alone, APRC goes alone, GDC goes alone, UDP will take over government. That's the reality.
But
now the point is to prevent that. You will not risk it. Now, when you know that when we go all alone, UDP will take over government. No, wait. If we all go alone, that's not a safe bet for APRC.
But what I'm telling you,
APRC, natural instinct of an APRC supporter, safe bet is to prevent that UDP from getting. And the only way to do that is to come to Barrow.
But they have to wait.
No, you don't understand the point here.
No, but I think they have to wait.
They have
AP has a bigger political base than Barrow ever.
No matter how small that looks like.
But if it is to bring Barrow on their side, I can understand. But
they will like Barrow to do their bidding first.
To join Barrow for what?
I think the APRC leadership are very clever.
Yeah.
and in fact very manipulative in such a way that they will not go with somebody like Barrow, whom they consider, like she rightly said, has no political base. They had a massive following, at least in the areas, and they have a track record. If Mr. Barrow is, they are to join to Mr. Barrow, or Mr. Barrow is going to join them, it will be based on principles they think will definitely do their bidding. What can Mr. Barrow offer? That's what I'm saying.
That's the question.
That's the problem.
Okay, so we're moving on. We're moving on. Yeah. We're moving on to 3 years Jotna. So it's 2019. December is when we expect Barrow to honor his promise that he made during the campaign that he was going to serve as a transitional government for 3 years and then step down for new elections to take over. And there are people who are not happy with the fact that he's renegating on that promise. Even today I saw on social media T-shirts being printed, written on it, 3 years Jotna, Gambia has decided. And coincidentally, we've also seen on social media, especially on WhatsApp and Facebook, where water cannons have been associated with the Gambia government, that they have been brought into the country. So there are two camps. The French police are here to train for crowd control and stuff. So under normal circumstances, this is something that we could all embrace, because it's going to replace, for example, the use of firearms where live bullets could be used. But it's so convenient that it happens in this very moment when protests expected to happen.
So
what is happening here?
There are strong indications that the government is afraid of or worried about what will happen in December. But I think the acquisition of water cannons and riot gears by the police are not the solution to the problems. I think the government has in their hand, it's not too late, to seek for a consensus and understanding that will avoid even the riots in the first place. And that is, the government must eat the humble pie and realize that it is them who promised and are beginning to fail. And the people are naturally going to get angry if you promise them and fail them. Let them eat the humble pie, come back to the people and say, we were the one who promised, but apparently we're going to fail, and these are the reasons, and we ask for your understanding and consent. If that is achieved, these worries about people.
Do you believe that
people will always go into the streets? There's no doubt about it. At the moment in the Gambia, you cannot stop it. You cannot stop it. And the police and the army, the police and the police water cannons and all sorts of things are not quite unnecessary.
Don't you think it's a provocation too?
We can
because
avoid
if I
all
say
that.
It makes me angrier, for example.
Yes, well, of course, if people see that.
Well, for me, I think the water cannon was a good thing.
No, listen, the thing is,
for the police to have a water cannon.
It's the timing.
At the moment,
timing and the training of our.
That's that. All those seem to suggest that the government is actually contemplating of using strong arm tactics against the civilian population so that they can cohese or perhaps suppress whatever demonstrations come. That is not safe at all, because that can lead to human rights abuses.
You can still lead to death.
You can lead to death and human rights abuses, and the very
how the French
things
have handled the yellow vest.
The yellow vest, for example.
The yellow vest protest, and
they persisted week in and week out, and the government has a big resolve now to protect their liberties. So the government will go for a big confrontation if that is the attitude they take. My belief is it all can be avoided if we can be able to engage ourselves nationally and achieve an understanding whether this government should go or not. But that initiative has to be taken by the government. They are the ones who promised, and they are failing the people. They have
so what do you think? Is this a provocation?
I tend to agree with Cham here. I think this is not a solution. The water cannons or the trainings or whatever is not the solution.
It can be avoided.
I think what needs to happen is for the man to go back to the drawing board, like Cham said, probably go and engage his coalition partners. But I don't think this is the solution. And the timing of it, it's definitely not a coincidence, which means he is preparing himself for whatever it is that's
for December.
For December.
I think the reality is that coalition partners have already sat down and they've met, and we know what the position of coalition partners right now is.
He didn't participate.
Yeah, the PDI is boycotted.
UDP boycotted.
UDP boycotted. In the end, UDP felt they should leave. But Barrow did not even show seriousness.
Exactly, that's the problem. That's why
even though he could work in his favor.
At Kairaba,
he was busy.
He went to launch his BYM, a fans club building there.
But you know, he has said categorically that
this is also what is adding to our frustration. We have a president who has these huge issues with the entire population, regardless of party affiliation. Yeah. And what is happening is when we expect him to come and give us explanation, or even to come back to us to say, I promise this, but now that
he said he's not going to consult anybody.
Well, he seems to be dismissive of people.
Now, if he said categorically, one way back, he's not. At the beginning, he said it will be left with the Gambian people.
Yeah.
But later, he said he will not consult
like,
any member
I do not care
as to whether he will stay in power for 3 years or 5 years. So people saw this as arrogance.
Yeah.
And it heightened the anger and frustration people have, even his friends.
Obviously,
have about
especially
him. So
given the history of our political history.
Late. I think it's not late. All this water cannon business, everything can be avoided if the government would be humble enough to go back on their, and be humble to the citizens and say, look, this is not even UDP or something. When he does this, he is not subjugating himself to UDP's whims and caprices.
He's opening up old wounds.
This is the nation. It's not about the UDP.
Yeah.
It's not only UDP. That's one mistake. It's not only UDP who does not disagree, who didn't agree with him on these 5 years.
Let's make something clear. 3 years Jotna did not start with UDP.
Exactly.
UDP only joined the bandwagon.
No, in fact, UDP is against 3 years.
It didn't start with UDP.
In fact, UDP is against this 3 years. They are for 5 years. It's only when he fell out with the UDP that he got more people on the side of 3 years than he was.
Yeah.
So that's the problem.
So it's a consensus here that this could lead to more confrontation.
Well, he said he had to take tough decisions, and I want to believe that this, by definitely expelling UDP from his side, who seem to be his main supporters, he definitely had taken a very tough decision that's going to haunt him.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right, so thank you very much. That makes up for what's trending on social media this week.
Before we go for our first break, I will allow Mustafa to take us through a review of the Kifat website.
Yeah, I think there is just one or two things that were left out of Cham's review that we have covered, and we could mention it specifically because this is interesting. I mean, we all have seen Ahmad Sane when he appeared on the television. I mean, according to him, he was not aware. He said he was not aware that he was on television. He didn't even know he was recorded on the RTS.
Yes.
So in other words, this is a number of questions whether he was tortured.
He said he was. You mean when he was paraded before this thing, when he was
before the television,
accused of?
He did not know he was on television.
He said he was tortured beyond consciousness. He didn't even know he was on television.
He didn't know, and that's the interesting thing. I mean, we all saw when he was like and how he was like on the television.
Well, you could see from the images, that's a video, that he had very difficult even to sit properly, or even to speak straightforward.
But the interesting thing is TRRC made him watch it.
Oh, yeah, they made him watch it. He said
he was never watched it.
Oh, look at that.
He came out and his wife told him about it, and he told the wife, I can't watch this. I don't want to go back to, I want to forget it. So he never watched it.
He never watched it in his life.
He watched it before the TRRC.
And he was, broken down.
Yeah.
He definitely said he was, everyone agreed that he certainly was not by himself when he was doing those supposed confessions about I mean, I think it was all part of many people said the government was right in prosecuting him because they said he gave a false testimony in support of somebody's asylum. Others argued that, okay, was that man not definitely threatened as an opposition? Was he not a member of the opposition? Two, was his testimony false? Was it not true that the guys definitely belonged to the UDP and could face
was that even a crime? Was it a crime?
Well, the government at the time said the man made false testimony.
But to
whom?
So
it is fraudulent. What was that warrant torturing him?
But to whom also? To whom?
He said that, I mean, it was...
Mr. Malam Fati.
Malam Fati was supposed to go abroad. But you know, at that time...
the testimony was given to whom? Because then it wouldn't fall under their jurisdiction then. If, let's say, for example, the man is seeking asylum from the U.S.,
no, the man
he would have given his testimony to the U.S. authorities.
No, what happened was you were young there. You probably were young there. The man had visas, I believe, and he was traveling abroad.
Okay.
And he wanted a testimony so that, when he was here, he was a political activist. When he comes back, he feared his freedom, life, or etc., etc. And the UDP party gave him a testimony, to attest that he definitely belonged to the UDP. Mr. Sane.
Oh, okay.
So this was found on him at the border, and he was arrested. in Senegal,
border, yeah.
somewhere, but it's a Gambian border. The Senegalese didn't have any problem with it. The Gambian border guards found it on him and brought him then, and the government pounced on it to be a crime, a fraudulent testimony. And it was Amadou. And Amadou was very much prominent in the UDP. So at the time, two things were involved. Even if the government was, it's natural that the government will feel bad because they believe that here is this man going.
No, I get the picture.
Here is this man going to spoil the image of the country, etc., etc. That's fraud. That's fine. But they went to the point of arresting, torturing him and parading him and made him to confess without his consent. That is wrong. And you know, as Foroya or Doi advised them at the time, Foroya advised them, look, when it comes to this asylum seeker, even APRC people, die-hard APRC people, I saw them in London and other places, they went and claimed that their political rights were violated here.
Yeah.
So when it comes to Gambians at the time looking for papers, even APRC people lied.
Yeah.
So Doi, I think it was Doi editorial or something, who was advising them, look, you see, when it comes to these kind of things, people do this not because, you know, they hate the president. I mean, how could APRC people hate Jammeh?
Yeah.
But because at the time they found out that the only easy way for us to make for us to get papers is to claim that we have been hostile. That was the moment.
Where a Christian,
so at the time, the only way to
said
exactly
he was under religious persecution.
Exactly.
And we know that's not.
Happening here. On the Jammeh, I mean APRC, UDP, everybody who went, even journalists who are not journalists went and claimed they were journalists because the system was oppressive. So everybody could claim that they fear for this one right. The only way to avoid that was the government to be less oppressive and to be democratic. Right now. Check it now, it will be difficult to claim asylum on those bases.
That's true.
So Doi advised Jammeh that in fact the best way to deal with this is to change your ways and become democratic. Nobody will spoil your name.
True.
Just like today.
The interesting thing was another interesting thing also was that I mean Yakuba Toure's name came up
Yakuba's name
quite
prominently on the Denton Bridge incident. He was supposed to have even threatened Dabo with death, like burning him ashes. And all the witnesses who testified claimed they saw him,
they saw him not just at the Denton Bridge but also at a particular location near the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital. I believe this must have been where the state guards were, opposite the School of Nursery.
So Yankuba then have more questions to answer when he appears before the TRRC.
Things are apparently piling on him.
Things are piling on. But what do you make of their well, that's different, guys. That's their supposed interference with TRRC's witness trial, which collapsed according to lawyer Lamin Dabo.
Well, the problem was that the Justice Ministry withdrew it. I think there were two things. One, the Justice Ministry did not intend to prosecute. There could be that they were trying to bully them. So that it becomes
bully is not the right word.
Well, why would someone
maybe try to prove a point to other witnesses
to say this is not an institution to mess with. That's one thing. But the second thing,
this would have defeated that purpose. The fact that
wasn't that the case as lawyer Dabo, lawyer Jade Lamin Dabo
said, coming to that,
that the witness was not credible.
Yes, the witness was not credible. He was telling too many things that are different. In fact, when this thing was before the Carnival Magistrate Court, at one point he said he called Yakuba, at one point he said Yakuba
called him, exactly.
So they took it out of the Carnival Court and took it to
so even the best thing would have been when he told it.
Very stable person.
Wouldn't you think the best thing would have been when he told the TRS about these people who have been called him? They could have called these people and asked them whether that happened, caution them, and then release them. That would have been better instead of dragging them to court.
No, I think they wanted to set an example publicly.
Well, that's what the minister said. He said, I hope everybody learned a lesson that
because if they had also not arrested them.
Yes, perhaps.
Since Alaji has made this in his public testimony, everybody know the natural instinct of everyone at that time was that they've interfered. You understand? That's the natural instinct of everyone.
Okay.
Even if this case goes to, perhaps it's better that the state allow itself to lose the case. So that even though everyone would know, oh, they have not messed, the state just couldn't prosecute, but at least they've tried.
But they've tried.
So that everyone would know that if I attempt it, even if I'm not prosecuted, I'll be taken to court.
Yeah.
So that's what the minister, actually the minister indefinitely admitting his
But at
defeat.
least it's so state is serious about it, and anybody who attempts will be arrested.
Yeah.
In fact, in his admission of perhaps failure on the case, he said perhaps it will be a lesson learned by everybody that the TRC cannot be messed up. All right.
And if you are done with the review of Kirfatu website, we will now like to take our first break. This time we did a vox pop out there to talk to the people to see their reactions to the return of the TRRC. We will take a look at that, and when we come back, we will have our special guest with us here in the studio.
Dreaming of owning a property in a prime location with great proximity and fantastic neighborhood? EJ Investments Sanyang Seaview Estate is the best choice you have been waiting for. Our Sanyang Seaview Estate is approximately 15 minutes drive away from the busy hub of Brusubi roundabout and into the heart of nature, where you can have a peaceful and relaxed lifestyle with your family. You can buy a finished 4-bedroom story with 5-year flexible payment plan or a service plot with 2-year payment plan option. With over 300 homes, you will enjoy big tar roads with covered drainage, modern electrification with solar street lights, gated entrance with security post, and a breath-catching experience of our beautiful sea view and lake view. You can own a home today at our Sanyang Seaview Estate. Call us today on 446-4838 or 325-9220. Visit our website on ejinvestments.net. EJ Investments, first in property.
Hello and welcome to this special report of the brunch here on Kirfatu. My name is Sally Job. We're here at the University of the Gambia Law Faculty and School of Journalism and Digital Media. A lot of things have happened during the past regime, which is the reason why TRRC came, to let people know a lot of things that had taken place in this country. We're here to sound opinion from people about what do they make of the TRRC and what are their expectations. Stay with us. Let's find out from people.
I'm Omar Msise, IT expert for a World Bank project for NAC, but I'm also a part-time lecturer with University of the Gambia. Well, the biggest, I think, take-homes from the TRRC are for us who are actively working for the government and working for public enterprises. It's telling us all that, you know, you behave well, you go home well. Whatever you do, however long it takes, I mean, there will be a day for accountability. And we also expect that the government is going to take steps. Those who need to be compensated by the torturers who went through afflictions during the previous regime will be compensated, you know, equitably. And those who did the most atrocities would also be accountable for their actions. And then at the end of the day, we reconcile.
I think Gambians should know the truth. And it's very interesting. And I also believe that after the TRRC, there will be reconciliation and we will have peace.
During the IJMS regime, many things has happened, but we did not know. But through TRRC, we came to realize that the bad things that the regime has done. And also, I think it is, it will be a lesson for this regime to learn from the others' mistakes that have been done from IJMS regime. Yes, I think it is a very, very big lesson for us.
Well, I learned a lot because, like, for us students who don't know the history of the Gambia, like, we are learning a lot, knowing that the Gambia has been through so much by the past government and everything that has happened before. And I expect that people will learn from this and be truthful and honest and do whatever they're doing. They should do it straightforwardly and maintain peace.
TRRC is the most greater things ever happened to this country, because we all know what has transpired for the last 22 years in this country. We never expect that, you know, we'll be having a day, you know, as today what's happened, you know, in TRRC, which is the Gambia need the most, because what has transpired in this country, without a TRRC, this country will never be straightened out. I think the people, the lead council, the chairman, the people who are working in the TRRC team, I think they are qualified people. The Gambian people have trust on them, and we hope that, you know, they will be fulfilling their mandates, and finally the truth will come out in way.
TRC de me alondi tenga molu kontane men keda sanyi mo nim fulo kono pour ay Sénégal memba Sénégal wolen tonya foti mol dunta men na bari ko nga say ñokan mol dunta men e findi yafo dunta ñokam men na ye mo ño tonye men na yafo bari mol be diamo kan nke la moyle dol wol ka tonya dam mala ba dol wol bu ka tonya fu lafta momo bita TRC be diamu la je ye kukela o man kukela o dute be diamu la le ye tonya fu mol ye banku dingule momo e tonya fo banku dingul ndamal be murra nyokan to boda banku ne kanja ndamal be murra nyokan nga nyo dani nga yam fa nyoy ya jamile maral kuru me nga kay banku kanja akole ata nyame ye mol men faje ye mol men na mol faje ye si nga nyo bolo say bare si tonya fo mol de e kana fa ya fo mol lafta wol ndela miraro menti na keta fa pare da men la na tamboke luway bu sole ka men la na tamboke kadu mo fa mo la na tambol buterol wol fisara bari kamo adama di kala fili ko awo mulana tambol de nyanta busarol aleka lundaw faransa lon ko lundaw le mudu ni be sila na banko kan isi dal sorong be na banko ko mo fole ye dal sorong ya lo be munafal wala mun nakumo baraka
TRRC la dogo nte ayente nyaafare because niya jibe ko lewe nyamita banko kan since birin jawra jamado for ya jambela 22 years for up to now barola time ela dogo nyin noteje a betiyatale anu nyanda kada nyato la continue banko dingol ya long membe keri imaje bi mo ya long membe keri même pasta you can understand yellow is very important ila muro na ko tanke yes kunu na fonga wo ngaji be I was very happy about that because ngaji ko ansa dogo nyin anyanda ka continue le anyanda kada nyato le ka understand amanya ka stop fo janila time of banda banko dingol ko be clear ko be senia molma to nyaay sabati ngake ngani ya kelindi ko kafuko siol or karab. No, it's not important.
The Gambians should, try to make certain reforms, change attitudes, and love each other, and we build a better Gambia for the future. Yeah.
So we've all heard people's opinion regarding the question we posed to them, which is that TRRC has been away and it's back again. Everybody wants reconciliation, and they are so happy that the TRRC came to teach them and enlighten them on a lot of things that took place in the country. Back to the studio, I am Sally Job.
Gambians react to the TRRC. Welcome back from that short break. And now we would like to introduce our special guest today. And we have Sait Matty with us, who is a political science lecturer at the University of the Gambia. We will be discussing a couple of things. And one will be the decision of the Gambia government to take over assets belonging to former President Yahya Jammeh, and what, of course, that means to our democracy. So welcome to the show, Sait Matty.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So what does that decision, how do you see the decision of the government to seize Jammeh's assets?
Well, I think, one, the government said they are acting based on the
report of the Jammeh Commission.
I think people would want to see them taking action based on the report. We just don't want to have a commission and at the end of the day, nothing is done on that side. But I would want to say that for me, I would have preferred to know what exactly is in the report before government start taking action, because at least it will help push the transparency and accountability issues that we know. Right now, we don't know on what basis the government is taking this action. The only thing we know that is the recommendation, but the public also needs to know what these recommendations are, so that we can always be in the same page. Otherwise, taking actions when certain things are behind, what it creates is more of rumor, people say this and that. So I think I would have wanted to. The decision is a welcome decision, because one, they are taking action, but I want it to follow a procedural process where people will get to know exact reasons why they are doing that. And I think that has been missing, and that should also be very important pillar in our process to democratize, also for people to believe in the actions of government.
What do you make of the fact that it's just for two people? I mean, we know Bazi and Jammeh have gone a long way. One must have read that letter where he is saying you are caught, we will fry you.
Yeah, I've seen that.
They're going a long way, but there are other people as well who are involved in business with Gambia.
Who are declared by the commission to be his closest.
Yeah, you know, this is what I'm saying. Like, we don't even know who are those that are adversely mentioned. We saw the ministry inviting these people that are adversely mentioned to see them. You know, sometimes I don't know what the intention is, but sometimes it's like they are somehow hiding certain things.
Yeah.
Like, if there was a commission, the best thing to do is to put it in the open. We want to know what the outcome of the commission is exactly. And why is it 2 people? Because we don't know who exactly are those that are adversely mentioned. Even though we know it from the commission, we even seen people that have been mentioned currently working in the government, people that were withdrawing, supporting those whole process. They're still in government. So if you start with 2 people and people do not know what exactly is in the report, you only create suspicion. And the next thing that will be pushed is that it's a witch hunting.
You think perhaps the people who are adversely mentioned should be published?
The whole entire report.
Everything. The report needs to be published. And for me, that's what I was thinking. But I think the good thing that they said is that this is more of an interim measure. And it started, like, it seems like the interim measure started with the bigger fish, instead of us knowing all those other people that have been mentioned.
Do you have a feeling that this is...
Well, one may tell us perhaps that Ahmed Samba is also a bigger fish.
Well, I cannot comment on that until maybe the report did not mention them. Maybe the report did not mention those people. Maybe it is only Basi and that.
The report doesn't mention them. They have appeared before the commission.
Yeah, but not necessarily. Appearing on the commission doesn't mean like you're also guilty. Perhaps like you can see people...
I know where he's coming from. It's not only Basi who's been named by the commission to be close associates of the president. You remember there were sort of 5, was it 6 or 5 of them who've been close. So now only one close associate have been named. That's what he's trying to strive for.
I see that point. Perhaps...
If I can interject here, is that I think the problem here is we don't know why Basi and President Jammeh. We can only speculate on the basis that if there are people who hold the bigger responsibility in certain atrocities that have been committed. In this case, financial mismanagement. But unless the report comes out, what we can do is to speculate as to why this is happening. Why not this person? Why not that person? For example,
did you feel, as many people feel, that the government is taking too long to make this recommendation public, even though by law they could do it within 6 months, etc. But by calling people who are adversely mentioned, who must have been written to actually, and without involving the public, without public knowing who are those people, do you think there's any transparency in that?
Yeah, well, this is the question. This is the suspicion that we're talking about. But I think one important point that the minister mentioned is perhaps the fact that they're taking this interim measure against these 2 people is because maybe they are the ones that have properties that are very visible, that are very engaging, and therefore they need to take urgent action to make sure that these monies are not moved here and there, so that they can get some of these monies back. Maybe that's one of the reasons. But then I think no matter how reasonable that is, what the Gambians want is the issue of accountability and issue of transparency. If people are mentioned, come out, put the report and say, okay, this is the action that we are taking. And I think a process needs to be followed in that. Or you cannot just do things, chapati here, chapati there. That wouldn't...
Another thing that is ironical is the fact that the entire sittings of the commission was played on a media where everybody had access. So it was played in the open. Now, if the report comes out and it is being treated on a piecemeal basis, but discreetly also, you have the ministry inviting people into his office and nobody knows what happens behind the curtains. What does that tell about the attitude of the government vis-a-vis the transparency that operated with the commission?
I totally agree. I think we need to, since we have enjoyed the whole 2 years hearing process, I think we also need to be on top in terms of what's going to be the outcome of it. But undeniably, we've seen that the government is taking action. But sometimes it is important to take action, but how you take that action is also counts. And I think the problem is that people are not happy that they have taking these interim measures, but we want to be clear as to what the entire process is.
So I mean, if you look at the taking over of the Basi assets, we know Basi has quite a number of business in the Gambia, including the mill, the flour manufacturing business, and also, but also more importantly with NAWEC, he has an incredible level of power because agreement with NAWEC, he has their generator, and that means states takes it over.
Well, it's good for the state to some extent, but also perhaps, but for private investment. But again, I don't see that. But then the nature of the relationship between Bassi and Jammeh, where Bassi for large extent was given preferential treatment against others. Yeah, so the state will definitely benefit.
I think
from,
they spelled it out in that later sentence.
We give you preferential treatment over others. Yeah, it was very clear. So that was, we know based on that letter that there was a lot of corrupt deals between Jammeh and Bassi.
Exactly.
So yeah. So if he is found guilty, well, definitely.
Look at the Jammeh himself. I mean, what would it mean? I mean, we know if Jammeh's assets are taking over, it would include a lot of his assets that are inside and outside the country, including the very nice building that's in US.
Yeah.
What would it mean for transparency and accountability issues going forward? Because we know if Barrow does the same thing, his assets too. I mean, that's the signal it would send, perhaps.
Well, I think we have set a very what do we call it? A very good first step to show that here, whether you are president, whatever you are doing, what belongs to the public must remain public property.
Okay.
And so if you take monies that belong to the public after you leave, you cannot be there unless you die. Even if you die, people will go after that because it belongs to the public.
Yeah.
And it's what this should tell in terms of transparency is to tell the borough government or any government that there's a possibility that if you mismanage public property, the next government will go after that. But generally, if you look at that, having commissions, you know, a president being there, going another commission, is a waste of state resources. It's a waste of time and money. So I think the best thing to do now is to set up institutions. We're talking about the anti-corruption institution that will be independent enough so that whoever mismanages or wherever, you know, is handled at the right moment, so that we will not wait until after Barrow left or somebody and then we have another Jammeh commission or something.
I think the decision about the heads of states, when they are in office, it was difficult to put them, to get them into account, you know, to get them accountable because of the, I mean, the enormous powers, influence they have. That's why when they leave office, then becomes the time to change them. But politically, do you think these commissions and what is happening right now politically may have anything to do with order? For example, is Mr. Barrow taking all his time or taking a conciliatory line in implementing or dealing with this commission report because it conflicts with his political interest, for example, to prosecute somebody from Baribu or somebody from Fonyi or somebody from State because it might harm his political ambition there? You see anything connected to that?
Well, for the fact that they are taking interim measures to take what belongs to, I mean, what seemingly belongs to Jammeh, or what the monies that Jammeh mismanaged, misappropriated, it's a very bold step. So I don't see how that is gonna affect his political lining or even the reconciliatory approach that you were talking about. I think this is a very bold step. Because right now, if you're looking at the political scene, people have been talking about Barrow forming some sort of an alliance with APRC, and now APRC have been calling this process a witch hunt, and now Barrow is taking this very bold step.
It's important that we dig deeper into this because it's a very important observation to make. We understand that the report is not out in full, so we don't know what is there. Exactly. But also we know that the international community is very much interested in what had happened under the Commission's review. So we also know that there are people who appeared on the Jammeh Commission who have now aligned themselves with Barrow Youth Movement. So the fact that the report is not out and they are treating this in interim measures, what does that mean? Does that mean they are trying to appease a particular set of people? Let's say, for example, going after Jammeh is appeasing the international community and refusing to disclose who else may be involved, especially those that have now aligned themselves with Barrow Youth Movement. Could that be the reason why they have not fully disclosed?
Well, if you look at it around all those, and we're talking about the political nature of it all, and the whole issue of appeasement just to satisfy a certain group for political expediency or others, I don't see that as the way that this country should move. It is the reality. perhaps maybe it is the reality. But I don't see this action as is a way of appeasing the APRC. I think like perhaps it is maybe international community to show that we are really serious about the processes that we have started, and so perhaps we need more support in carrying out that. And we even see where the minister called on the U.S. government to support on that.
And that's another thing too. The United States Embassy have publicly declared their support for this move. What does that mean politically?
Well,
even diplomatically.
Well, it means that there is an international support for the activities that Barrow is taking, and it shows also that there is a global, global movement against corruption, against malpractices. That maybe the current situation is the past government, but also this current government must pay attention to that. And we have seen where the EU ambassador, for instance, have mentioned that the government needs to fight corruption. We have seen even the U.S. embassy in their statement they identified those issues that needs to be.
But does it also mean that if Barrow wants to now go after assets in the U.S. that belongs to President Jammeh, they could easily access it?
Well,
exactly, that's what it means.
But if the assets are in other country, it has to follow the laws of that other country. So maybe what needs to work is that they need to build that relationship with this other country so that they can get that. And I think they have started that.
Let's talk politics, since that's the area you work in at the university. And of course, you're supposed to be independent. What do you make of the current political situation and going forward? Consider the background we came from, 2017 and now. Did you expect at this level to see this intensity in our politics? Did you see this coming in 2017, that somewhere along the way the whole thing will return to this polarized situation?
Well, I personally, I was part of those that were very passionate about the change, passionate about the need to remove Jammeh. For me, I was in exile. I wanted to come home. So all that I was seeing was to come home. Sometimes they say people engage personally when it affects them most. So for me, it was, speaking from my experience, it was that. And what I was foreseeing is that, okay, we have a very important coalition agenda. Very, very nice, not too cumbersome, not too challenging. Things that were, implementable, like things that you could implement easily without anything, because basically all that they were talking about is reform. And everybody in this country, whether you're for Jammeh or otherwise, you realize that the country needed to change. And so this was the belief. So for us, we believe that with the coming of the coalition, all that reform agenda would come in. But along the line, we see that politics, partisan politics became so prominent, and so the very national agenda that was set up was kind of, pushed aside.
Who's to blame for this among the coalition partners?
I don't like blaming individuals, because I even blame myself. Because it was.
How do you blame yourself as a voter?
I'm not only a voter, but I'm a citizen. Voting is one process of the democratic cycle. This is voting, but also making sure that that vote, what you voted for, is maintained, is kept. That is what we call holding government accountable, making sure that you follow through.
How did you fail in that?
Well,
blame yourself. Well, how do you fail? I mean, what could you do?
What can I do? I'm still doing that, but still doesn't mean like me doing that wouldn't, in fact, blame myself. I'm blaming myself in the sense that I'm a citizen. I'm a citizen that, well, one, I believe in change, and secondly, now what I hope was going to be is not. So I blame myself in that I wasn't thinking exactly what was going to happen next. And I remember just after the election, I wrote a blog where I was trying to argue that young people in this country should not expect jobs or anything from this current government, because the economy at that time, or even now, cannot create those elements. What we needed to focus on is the legal and political reforms that we believe were impeding our democratic process. And I feel in a sense that I campaigned a lot for Barrow, for instance, and even people that I made or even sell Barrow's image. Now, so those kind of thinking is there.
Barrow is your Barrow.
Yeah, Barrow is your Barrow. Yeah. but then collectively, if we look at it, why I would blame everyone is that you cannot just say it was Barrow's decision.
It's a culture that we have.
Yeah, it's a culture, and you can blame Doi, you can blame NRP, Ahmad Bar, but if we blame it, we must blame collectively, because it's a collective failure.
Yeah, but somebody somewhere must have the initiative or what it takes to stop the rot, so to speak, if it is happening. for example, the people who are in government who are supposed to.
But Lamin, you're talking about a coalition agreement where they say, okay, we will form a government together. We will dismiss people together. But just immediately after the change, you know, people started rushing, oh, okay, I want to be this, I want to be that. Even that general agreement that was done in the first place, nobody followed. And it's the collective that you were talking about. Yes. People that were supposed to monitor and follow that agreement, you know, stayed back. Yes. So then if I decide, if I agree with you that this is what we're supposed to do, and I start moving this cup, you didn't say anything, I move it again, you didn't say anything, I keep moving until I satisfy myself.
Now, that's the whole coalition in general.
Yes.
Now let's now individualize them case by case. The PDOIS is of the view since the beginning, because that's where the trouble started. They promised 3 years and they should stop there. But they did not, well, he said accepted. They did not accept any position in the cabinet. Well, that's what Mr. Barrow said. Anyway, did you see that as a failure on their part to participate, you know, in stopping this thing, the whole thing degenerating into this kind of situation? Or were they right in keeping away from the executive and being the legislature?
I think being in the executive or the legislature is a matter of choice. And since there was no agreement as to what will come after removing President Jammeh, so people were free, even though there were moments where they started having this debate, tactical, whatever. So whether being in cabinet or otherwise is a matter of choice. And I think anybody, you can serve the country at whatever level you want to serve, wherever you feel like is the best to serve.
You don't believe
where I blame PDIS is that, well, PDIS, if you look at the manifesto, the Coalition 2016 Agenda Manifesto, you realize that it is more around PDIS ideas, PDIS, but where I blame them is, okay, you said, okay, in terms of in cabinet, in terms of selecting, we have to do it collectively, and then you wait and allow somebody to just go ahead and do that. Initially, you accepted that the person has that executive power, and if Barrow has the executive power, Barrow should be free to do whatever he wants to do.
So there you go. It is then their critics are right in saying that if they had not allowed Mr. Barrow to develop and usurp this kind of executive powers in the first place, by taking their stake from the thing, things would have been different.
But would that uniquely be for a PDOS or for all stakeholders?
But I think
I'm talking about DOI because they did not. I'm starting with them. I'm coming to the UDP.
We're pushing this too far when we say allow. Like, what powers do they have to stop him from doing that?
Because the MOU said that positions have to be shared among the partners.
No, I understand the point.
So from
what
the way
PDOI could, for example, come out and disagree with Barrow's move in that regard publicly, so that we know that they could not have done anything about it, but at least they were against it. They didn't do that. That was a failure on their part. But again, they could be opposed to what had happened right after elections, but they had no power to stop it.
No, you don't understand.
That's also a possibility.
No, you don't understand.
Come to think of it this way. Would any of the partners altogether have the ability,
they would have taken the position.
He was talking about APRC, PDYs. Would it be for just PDYs to say, we don't want an executive president, so we don't allow your appointment in the first place? Or would it be, or would that have to come from the entire, because you have several parties,
because
they all accepted the appointments.
You know, then maybe perhaps we could blame the design of the whole coalition project, perhaps. Why would I say that? Because one, you know that there was a constitution that gives the president executive power, and so the only thing that you can rely on is the goodwill of that person that was elected to follow through the agreements that were set. But if that person did not follow, and you also that signed that agreement, you also did not follow, because in the first place, why would we have ministers, people that want to be the next president to serve in cabinet, for instance? I did not see that as a, you know, I see that was one of the biggest challenges.
But you have to forget the bigger picture. The whole thing was an interim management, a transition. So that is allowed.
Yeah, but then,
you have to understand that they were meant to stay for 3 years. So people who are supposed to be presidential candidates after 3 years could naturally serve in this one.
Yeah, but then so you know what we see when that happens, you see that people were trying to use their office space to politics and do. That's why I'm saying maybe the problem is from the entire design.
design the expectation.
But you know it's practically impossible for politicians to toil and soil in the field and then come and give all the jobs to the technocrats. They won't allow it.
Yeah. So I think we have a lot of issues. So it's a collective.
In terms of what it led us to, we envisaged a transition that is non-partisan in nature. In other words, there are a lot of uncomfortable things to be done, and we expected that we would have a political 3-year transition that would allow us to do all those uncomfortable things. But I mean, since some of those things are not done, but wouldn't we say perhaps based on the environment we are also able to generate, I mean, which came into establishment of institutions like this, it's also nothing to regret? Or would we regret going back?
Well, no, like we are not saying that the transition has failed entirely. We are saying that there are a lot of bottlenecks, and I think there are a lot of distraction as well. Distraction, especially around the politics. Yeah, having, for instance, the institutions that have been set up, and even the need to reform the security institutions. These are things that people wanted, and people want to see that those processes are carried out effectively, and that it responds to the general need of the public. Especially, people want to know what happened to their family members, those that were murdered or those that were disappeared. I think that's where the importance of the TRRC comes in. For instance, we're talking about the need to widen the democratic space. We're talking about the need to respect people's rights. We're talking about the need to create a level multi-party playing field, and even term limits. That's where the Constitutional Review Commission comes. And then you have the security sector reform project, which I consider the most difficult project under this regime.
You mentioned difficult. The Attorney General said this is the most important reform. Because without it, all the gains that we've made would be meaningless, zero. Yet the government is foot dragging or taking too long a time to implement it.
Well, security sector reform is not just, we're going to push things here, move Sajo here, put you there. It requires, requires some sort of vision.
There are concepts, and the Attorney General alluded to it, though he said, he didn't rule it out, but he said, even when there are redundancies, there are retrenchments, they will not be based on, for example, ethnic, regional, or something like that. There are critics who believe that the government is definitely does not even have the courage to implement these reforms, such as reducing soldiers. That is why they are trying to find a way out, introducing this agriculture thing. So, do you share that opinion?
Well, I see that that's one of the strategies. You have the and when we're talking about the security sector reform, we need to look at the different level of actors. You have the political leadership, and also you have the security outfit. What is the future of the security institution? If you're responsible for an institution with 500 or 5,000 people, and a government policy comes and say you must cut down, and how are you going to cut down? Looking at the fact that the military in particular have been, I don't like using the word that it was politicized, because I feel like if the military was entirely politicized, we would not have a standing country right now, because things may go out of hand. But we saw the role that the military played during the impasse, which I feel personally that they did a lot. But then how do you say, okay, well, we have more than 5,000 people now, we need to cut that. Who are you going to cut, and who are you going to leave? And especially when you're talking about the issue of ethnicity, when security sector reform is somehow politicized, when people are talking about all this ethnicity. But one element that we continue to forget, that the overbloated nature of our security force was also due to the issue of unemployment that this country was facing. So to remove most of these young people from the street and put them into security outfits was the easiest thing to do. So I think generally, in terms of the security sector reform, whether right sizing or downsizing as they call it, needs to factor in all these different macro elements, but also the pending micro elements.
Why do you find it difficult to implement?
Maybe that's a good question for the government, but to say, I say it's the political nature of it. My argument is that the security sector reform is highly politicized, and for a very long time there have been this narrative that the security, and in particular the military,
is dominated by the Jolas. To what extent that is, maybe it was more of a framing level. So, and already within this current system, we having the Jolas again. I'm feeling like perhaps that they are a little marginalized and all those issues. And you know, if the reform is going to be carried out, definitely if they're the majority, they will be affected more. But should it be based on whether you are an ethnic person or not? And I think this is the discussion. We need to move beyond that.
It will not take along those lines. But
that's why I said it's a very difficult element. And,
I want to add to that. I think what makes it difficult in comparison to other reforms, processes takes place and then actions comes afterwards. With the security sector reform, we are expecting the actions to go along to form part of the process. But what actions are you allowed to take? What implications would come with those actions that you are supposed to take? Let's say, for example, one of the actions is to downsize the military. What do you do with those who have been downsized? What avenues would you create for them? What implications would their redundancy pose to my political
and what is the right size as well?
Exactly.
Well, the minister said
that makes it
the
difficult in
focus
that
should
way.
not be on the this thing, but the quality, not the size, but the quality and professionalism of the army, and built in such a way to meet the desire of the people, which is
and that may require removing certain people.
But what is it exactly what the people want with our security institutions?
That's what he said.
You know, for me, I see it as a, you know, we always criticize the security institutions for not doing this, for not doing that. But we haven't taken ownership of our security institutions. We see them as more like outcast people that have
He said over the last 20 years, the military had a bad image. That is true. But he said they are Gambian army, whether you agree with what they have done or not. And it is not entirely all of them who should be stereotyped to be bad people. Because he said, in fact, we have seen that a number of attempts, whether you agree with the method or not, but a number of attempts to topple Jammeh actually came from them, you know, resulting in deaths even among
I don't want to say the military had
so
a
it's
bad
not outrightly correct to say that they were enablers of Jammeh in entirety. He said no.
I don't want to say the military has a bad image, Mustafa.
Did not actually say military had a very bad image. The Afro-barometer.
No, I don't want to say that because, I mean, the security outfits that were mostly implicated with Jammeh is the NIA, more so than the military. And the Afro-barometer survey that we conducted obviously ranked the military as the most trusted among the
security institutions. It's actually the fourth most trusted institution.
Actually, you know what's happened there? You see, the NIA has quite a bad image in the sense that that is where, you know, all the evil things happen. But some of the evil things that will happen were not actually done by the NIA. They seem to be the scene of the crime, but not already the participants of the crime.
But then again,
you can remember. So that's why they got an unnecessary and perhaps over-bloated image. But the military were the ones.
But you cannot
these atrocities at NIA. The NIA provided them, you know.
But Lamin, you cannot. You cannot say it was the military. Like if you say it was the military as an institution, it means like the military command was especially responsible.
Oh, well, we know that.
You know, there's a, for me, it's still a theory. Like we refuse or we don't understand Jammeh's security apparatus, how he was using this different institutions.
The army said
the command. Yeah, because
he created a unit from.
So we generally say, okay, it was the military. One, because Jammeh was from the military, and so we entirely blame the military. But we refuse to accept also that the military was one of the most persecuted institution in this country.
Absolutely.
You know, most of the abuses that happen also happen within the military. I wouldn't want to hear the minister justifying the fact that there were attempted coups and therefore that was because of the military. We don't want to hear those kind of stuff. We are talking about a reform military, a reform security apparatus that will be under democratic control, but then the civilians that will be leading that institution must know and understand that the security institutions are there. And right now what we are seeing is that all the security institutions, they are trying to be independent. Just recently you heard from the PRO accepting their image for the past 22 years, and they're already trying to redeem that image, to redeem, and I think their efforts need to be appreciated.
Now, the question is now, I mean, we know we have we have close to 7,000 standing army, about 6,800 something.
Experts say 6,000.
6,800 something. So, but if you, I mean, should our discussion be centered on what's the right size of our army, or what should the right size of the army be or what kind of army do we need?
I think it would be what kind of army do we need, but also what kind of army can we afford? You know, the cost is also very important. Right now, we're talking about the entire security institutions. We're talking about 18,000 personnel combined, all the 8 security outfits, and 18,000, that might be around almost half of the wages that goes to mostly to the security institutions. Yeah. So budget-wise, having that large security institution in 18,000,
750 million
dollars it goes. You know, with 18,000 personnel, do you say that we need it in a population of 2 million? So what we need is a military that is fit for purpose. We definitely need a military. We definitely need right sizing, putting it into the right size. What exactly the right size is? That's why I said the political leadership must be the leaders that need to reform this institution. And right now, one of the biggest challenges to this is that the political leadership is not taking charge. It is mostly the security institutions that are being given the mandate to reform themselves. And in one that you can see that in terms of drafting security institutions. So if the political leadership doesn't have an image or a vision as to where this institution should go, or we'll see a lot of delays and the same things happening. Yeah.
So in terms of the, there are a lot of people who say that the of people, you will also have to give them some incentives.
Yeah.
And that will require sometimes a lot of money. And there are a lot of people who also suggested that we allow TRRC to do its back, and when it's done, we eject number of people who we believe are involved in past violations and move on. But there are people who say, well, if you do that, you still end up with this still huge overbloated army we don't need. What do we do?
The question around the military or the overbloated nature of the military, I would take it as a question of issues of employment or unemployment, unemployment. That in our discussion we need to factor that out. If we need an army of 1,500, meaning like we're gonna pass out maybe remove purpose. We want to see a reform security service, reform police, and that would be responsive and be the guidance or the protector of our democracy. It's not to be so much involved in the political process, but to be independent enough so that they can monitor and take effective control of our security.
Just to wrap up this, the essentials that the government people want is one, a military that will not step into politics anymore.
Exactly.
That's one aspect of it. The military who would always accepted that they are subject to civilian authority.
True.
Once it is the majority of the people who establish that authority, and two, they must not take any orders, even if that constituted authority, if the order is illegal. Now, these are the three things we wanted. This is what was lacking.
Yeah.
So do you think, from what you have heard of the reform policy, we're going to have this?
Well, already we are seeing that. Well, for instance, when Barrow promoted some of the officers for for the role that they played during the transition, I think that was also politicization. That's why I said part of the security sector reform is the politicization, or even the nature how security has been politicized, securitization of of all these elements. So we've seen those elements, but one thing that I am also seeing, especially within the military and in the police by extension, that there's that desire within this institution for objective control. They want to be trained, they want to be reformed, they want that. It is the institutions that want that. But this is where the political leadership that designed the policy, that wants the policy, needs to channel those efforts.
And they are not doing that.
Well, so far it's not.
And they want to rely. The military can be professional if it was left to them.
Yes.
But it is the political leaders that are interfering with their work.
Yes.
Yeah, because
this was the history and this is what is happening.
And right now you cannot entirely remove that.
Perhaps let's end it with one thing, one more correction. I've been thinking about this now, and I've had quite a number of people who made an argument around this. That, you know, if you go to other countries, you have military into almost everything. Even in the Gambia, you have military into engineering and other fields. They're the people who build some institutions such as
University,
Faraba. Couldn't we utilize our military, part of it, have it trained into other issues? And have them go into those areas.
You are coming to the top.
And still maintain the size.
Well, that is perhaps, you're coming to buy the ideas of this agriculture, you know, that's
well,
military.
It may not be limited to agriculture.
No, I know for sure that
with adequate civilian oversight.
Yeah, I think generally the military can be one of the issues we're talking about is financing the military. One of the arguments for them getting into the agriculture is that government spends millions in their feeding, so therefore they want to handle that. But already they've already started micro farms and all that. For me, I would want to see a well-financed military, military that is well-financed, but that has to be based on what available resources are. And even if the military is engaged in agriculture, which is one, answering their call to the civilian population, I don't know whether they were the ones that pushed it or it came from Barrow, that has to be debated. But even if they're engaged in farming activities and all that, there needs to be that strong civilian oversight to make sure that the money is not used.
The argument now is the Ministry of Agriculture are not put at the helms of this project.
But then the military is an institution. It's an institution like...
for that oversight, and that's why most people in agriculture are complaining that anything that has to deal with agriculture for the Gambia, even it's going to be implemented by soldiers, police, laborers, or mad people,
but I
has to come through them.
You see, one of the other problems that we have in this country is that all these different government institutions, they keep competing among themselves
for projects.
You know, who's supposed to do that, who's supposed... If agriculture, if that's their responsibility, why haven't they done that for
the last
100 years?
That's the argument of the military.
You know,
they have been doing it for
but
50
like,
years.
you cannot tell me like I am farming.
I would not be against having the military engage in agriculture, but I wouldn't want them to take that role away from the agricultural institution, because
they are the experts.
But the agricultural minister is for policy. It's not like they're going to have agricultural farms or something else.
No, I understand. The point is that, for example, we cannot have a ministry who is supposed to make sure that we deal with food insecurity, that there is enough food in this country, that agriculture is producing well. But you don't want to make the military's intervention in agriculture the solution to the agricultural ministry's failure.
Yeah.
Because that is not sustainable.
Yeah.
Well, the military will always be here. You know, if they do a good job, why not? They will always be here.
Thank you very much, Sait Matty. That was a very interesting discussion. Thank you very much for granting us this interview. So we'll now like to move on to our entrepreneur segment, where we feature our businesses. And this week we are featuring Adebayo, who is into multimedia business. Let's take a look at that, and when we come back, we'll wrap it up.
My name is Sait Matty. I'm a Nigerian by nationality. I'm a father, meaning that I'm married. In what I do, I'm a commercial photographer. Yeah, when it comes to photography has been something I love doing for over a long period of time. And actually, I realized when I was growing up, late 1990s, I realized I always want to watch movies, not just movie, but behind the scenes. So there's this fictional part, I was like, man, how it's being done? So I love behind the scene, and for me, getting interested in behind the scene, meaning that I want to see how the artwork might have been created and how it is being done, and the beautiful memories, how it's being captured, and the like. So in the process, I decided to go into media in general. In regards to my business, like I'm into commercial photography. We do more of taking photographs, events, portrait photography, and fashion photography, and other type of photography, but not like funeral photography. I don't do that. So, but most of a lifestyle photography. So these are things I do, and alongside with being a classroom teacher. Every business has its own challenges. You know, sometimes people can be like, when you meet up with youth, they're like, why can't you go into business? They'll be like, oh, there's no money. Then I will not tell them, there's no money. Then tell me what you have been doing with that money. You know, when I started photography a few years back, I had no money. And later in the process, I was doing some other menial jobs. So these jobs I do, I was doing in those days. That was the money I gathered together and I was able to bought my first analog camera, which is Yashica MF5. It's an analog camera. And in the process, it's all about passion. So money is a factor, but for now, one of the challenges I face, because I actually want to see how best I can grow my business, is money. When it comes to job creation, before I set up the studio professionally, anytime I'm covering an event or have a job to do, most times I usually invite some friends to help me out and I pay them off. They are casual clients, they are casual workers with me. But right now at the moment, I have 3 staff that are working with me. And I'm hoping to employ more soon. Everybody can be my client. Everybody is a potential client to me. Like some people can be like, oh, Smart, you want to work for the rich people? I say, no, I work for everybody. Anybody that wants me to work for them, I always give a room for people to communicate. If I not just 2 to 5 years time, my business, every now and then, every day, every moment, I always want to see how best I can grow in my business. A few minutes ago, I discussed with my colleague here that at the moment, if Smart doesn't go to work, the business will not survive. But I sure best I can make the business survive without me being there. So meaning that hoping to see how best I can incorporate modern technology into the level of photography in the Gambia. There are a lot of things are not really happening in the Gambia, and that is the simple truth. My brand, when it comes to brand, into media production, photography to be precise, little of filming for now. And we do more of creation of art, more of photography, more of media, more of media in general, photography. That's what I do. So that's what I do most time. I'm located at the mall, Tipa Garage, shop 65. Most times it's always very funny when they call. I'm like, yeah, I'm at shop 65, not 55, 65. Then for me to describe a place funny enough, I'm like, just beside the toilet. Ask of the mall toilet. I'm very close to there. So that's where I am. And for my phone numbers, 7917197. The number goes on both WhatsApp and calling. And the Christian number, 3960093.
Smart Adebayo studio there. You can check them out for all your photo shoots and media work. This now brings us to the end of this episode of The Brunch. Do join us next week for another exciting episode. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.
na broda mimba Europe Mr. Conte nto bo wol kol kan sai na so ko na mano banta jabo banta tulo ban Tanka bol kol ka anda ka ba office ko na badama bulo mutarin baka ta funtilano ni ko batunga ne ta ya kuriye ma ko do man dinga ta mano sani ko ni jam
munda bete ni la buro da man balwo service kalam
mun service
balwo service
ni da foronte mo kalam
munda afela buro da ko abitala internet ol aya ba site la woldo balwo.com na wo sajje a apo nga ba download la telephone ol na be sandiro to ni wal na be sidin ala office ko ndama manjar pour ay ta bank ko kodoki abe sidin office ko no daminto ito message so yo telephone ko no e pitiko be Gambia dawda pitiko ba belo ko ta tano dawda yeta fenko tawo wodama yala bari wa service na ta mo da han ata nyo le kan pija na bro dan ka ko ata nyo lo ayo ko tin da han
balwo service dinkirala jampo o manken na kolaya ko balwo service al demano kaje ko ale do mor feŋol sang alla dimbaya mole ana lakkanun tewol wato bela ani wat sudum fanan kono balwo service la dinkiralu ani la do kunyolu e be banko karo beto kabirin katon fo koyna nalla fa ko ku koton so balwo service la kolto ali commandi telephone line la milbuko 9400213 7694319 wala 3192870 wala hankabi alta internet oto alila kolu jibe www.baluwo.com.
Dreaming of owning a property in a prime location with great proximity and fantastic neighborhood? EJ Investments Sanyang Seaview Estate is the best choice you have been waiting for. Our Sanyang